what happened yesterday with Antonio Brown, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we'd never seen anything like it before. We may never see anything like it again. But it was memorable, and it was stunning. And just like with the fake vaccination card that came to light 2 months ago, if PointsBet had set odds on the player most likely to remove his shoulder pads and jersey, T-shirt, gloves, and start to undo the string on his game pants before running off the field, Antonio Brown would have been like minus 750 as the favorite. And it's unfortunate that it happened. And it's a difficult one to unpack because there's still a vacuum of information. We still don't know what was said. We have Bruce Arians' version. We don't have Antonio Brown's version. We don't know if, the knee-jerk reaction is he needs help. We hope he gets help. Well, maybe it was a justifiable reaction to the circumstances. We just don't know. All we know is what we saw. We don't know what went on that sideline before Antonio Brown did what he did. And I'm not saying that this is some sort of a mystery that requires a lot of time and effort, but it is a situation that I think is going to continue to be talked about, Charean, until we at least can come to some understanding of what exactly happened. And to get there, we got to hear from Antonio Brown.
Well, as you said, Mike, it's just something that we had never seen before. I mean, very few players in the history of the NFL have quit on their teams midstream in the middle of a game. I mean, we've seen it happen before. This isn't the first time we've seen a player quit on a team in the middle of a game or after a game or whatever the case may be. But to do it in that fashion, it certainly was the first time we'd ever seen it. And I was in the Cowboys press box getting ready for the obviously watching the early games, but getting ready for the 4:25 Cowboys-Cardinals game. And we didn't have that game on our 8 TVs or whatever it was. It's the only game that wasn't on because it was the Jets. And all of a sudden there's a buzz in the press box. And I saw the tweet come over from, I think it was Josh Alper, that this had happened. And all of a sudden people are like, why? Why did this happen? And that's going to continue to be the question. Why did he go off like this? And we know we've seen odd behavior out of Antonio Brown before. This isn't the first time. But to do it in the middle of the game in the way that he did it, it's something that we've never seen before and certainly didn't expect to see yesterday. But you're right. If you're going to pick a player who it would have been, I don't even know who the number 2 player on PointsBet would have been.
And the terminology that was used by me, by you, by everyone who saw this was Antonio Brown quit on his team in the middle of the game and left the venue. However, it's possible he was fired in the middle of the game and basically decided to leave, right? You come to me and you tell me I'm fired, I'm leaving. Now, I work at home, so not quite on all fours with the comparison, but if I happen to be working in a workplace, as I once did, and I'm grateful that I'm able to work at home, my wife may feel otherwise, but if you come to me and tell me you're out in the middle of the day, I'm not waiting until 5 o'clock and punching out and sliding down the Brontosaurus and into the car like Fred Flintstone. I'm leaving then. So, if that's what happened, and we can begin to piece some of it together from the perspective of Bruce Arians, the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, remember this. And I want to set this up so we at least have a basic understanding of where the reports are. The report is, and Arians has admitted some of this, that he wanted Antonio Brown to go back into the game. And Brown refused. And Arians insisted, and Brown persisted, and Arians kicked him off the team, and Brown left. I think that's undisputed, or at least that has yet to be disputed by Brown, and the facts would seem to bear it out. The question is this. Whether or not Antonio Brown articulated to anyone on that sideline, I can't play because of my ankle, an ankle injury that kept him from practicing on Thursday and Friday of last week. So with that as the background, here's Bruce Arians meeting with reporters earlier today and talking inevitably about what happened yesterday with Antonio Brown.
Go because he's injured?
I don't know that he was.
Did he say that he was, or was there a dispute
No.
about that?
No,
He just refused to go in, or can you tell us more about it?
not really. I mean, what happened is pretty obvious what happened. So, he left the field and that was it.
See, this is where the former lawyer in me starts to focus and wonder and become curious. I mean, curiosity is the one common link between what I used to do and what I now do. And you have to be curious and you have to be skeptical. It is obvious what happened after whatever was said on the sideline. We know about that part. We just don't know how it got to that point. And you can't say as a blanket observation you didn't know he was injured because he had an ankle injury. And he did not practice on Thursday and Friday. And he was listed as questionable. And he was a game-time decision, although it was trending in the direction of him playing before game time. This is something that would have been on Bruce Arians' radar. So if a guy's playing with an ankle injury, there's a chance that the ankle injury is going to become aggravated. And look, all the armchair trainers out there who think that the fact that Antonio Brown ran off the field and jumped in the end zone meant that his ankle wasn't bothering. There's a huge difference between what we saw him do as he went from sideline to tunnel and running full speed in an NFL game, cutting, moving, sprinting, digging your cleats into the turf, especially at MetLife Stadium. There's a huge difference. He was physically capable of jogging off the field and jumping around in the end zone. That doesn't mean he's physically capable of doing his job to the level that he's used to. So that's where it's confusing, Charean. And that's where when I listen to Arians, and every head coach is prone to dabbling in some BS from time to time. I'm not trying to pick on Bruce Arians. I just become very curious. And I'd love to start putting people under oath to get to the bottom of this, because I got some questions for Bruce Arians, and the reality is he's not going to answer many of them, if any more than what he did today.
Oh, I think he's done answering questions about Antonio Brown. The guy is off the team. However, they choose to get him off the team, and transactions will be coming out shortly. But whether they cut him today or tomorrow or later this week, or put him on reserve retired or conduct detrimental or whatever the case may be, I think that gives Bruce Arians an out to say he's no longer a part of their team. But you're right, there's a ton of unanswered questions with what happened, and we may never learn exactly what happened. At some point, I would think Antonio Brown would talk, but we'll see how that plays out. I'm always curious, Mike, and I know you do this too, of looking in the background. And I know Mike Evans and O.J. Howard earlier had tried to calm down AB, but you see him taking off his shoulder, and they're just casually, everybody on that sideline that you can see in the shot is just kind of casually watching, or almost like rubbernecking, trying not to watch AB as he pulls off his shoulder pads and starts to run off the field. And you see guys turn around and kind of look, but no one made an attempt at that point to come up to him and really try to stop him from leaving the field. At that point, he was on his own. He was gone, and there was no one on that sideline who was there to go, hey, calm down, let's talk about this, whatever. And maybe it was beyond that point. But I was watching all the people in the background as Antonio Brown started to pull off those shoulder pads and walk off the field.
And here's where this develops what I think is best described as a twist on the gaslighting phenomenon that we all became familiar with about 5 years ago. The idea that just little by little, bit by bit, piece by piece, someone is convinced that there is something wrong with them, not something wrong with everything going on around them. And how that applies here, we've just kind of been led to believe by circumstances over the years that there's something wrong with Antonio Brown. And there have been occasions where it seems like he needs help. And that got thrown around by Tom Brady yesterday. And I know the organization is concerned about his mental health. But there are times that can almost be weaponized against a guy, because who's really going to believe Antonio Brown's version of the events? Because he needs help. He's got mental health issues. So the implicit, and this is very insidious if it's going on, but I can't rule anything out at this point. It's very easy to just kind of blame it all on him. It's very easy to just say, this was him. This wasn't us. This wasn't Bruce Arians getting pissed off at a guy who couldn't go play because he said his ankle was bothering him. This isn't Bruce Arians just finally reaching his lifetime limit of dealing with Antonio Brown in that moment. And look, we've seen enough of Bruce Arians' personality over the years to at least believe that it's possible that he would have an outburst like that. Basically, get this guy the hell out of here. You're off the team during a game. That's unusual. That's unconventional. And it kind of sounds like that's what happened. Regardless of whether or not Antonio Brown said he couldn't go back in because he was injured. Why wouldn't he want to go back into the game? He had hundreds of thousands of dollars riding on catches, yardage, touchdowns, and we saw he had 15 targets last week from Tom Brady. He's one of the only healthy receivers that Tom Brady is comfortable with. So there's a lot here, and my concern is that whatever issues are going on with Antonio Brown will become a potential blanket for the Buccaneers to hide behind and avoid their role in possibly pushing his buttons either accidentally or maybe deliberately to get him to react the way he did. And it's on him. There's something wrong with him. Nothing wrong with us. Something wrong with him. He's the bad guy. We're not. And I'm just very curious. If I could just get 2-3 people under oath and ask them about 45 minutes worth of questions each, I could get to the bottom of this. Of course, that's never going to happen. But there's enough there. You kind of get your sixth sense that something's not right. And I don't think it's right for us to just do the knee-jerk, Antonio Brown needs help, Antonio Brown had some sort of a psychic snap, Antonio Brown is in the wrong, the Bucs didn't do anything to contribute to this or cause this. It's possible there's a lot of blame to go around, and it's possible that the Bucs bear some of it, Charean.
Yeah, there is, Mike, and I think Tom Brady does his radio show tonight, I believe, and if he's doing it tonight, I hope that he's asked many questions about this, because he's one of those guys I would like to hear under oath. I would like to hear what the conversation was like, because we know their relationship has been, and I assume still was, pretty tight. I mean, he lived at Tom Brady's house when he came to town initially. He signed with the Bucs because of Tom Brady. They kept him after the vaccine incident because of Tom Brady. So I want to hear from Tom Brady. I want to hear more out of Tom Brady. Was there something that happened in the first half or at halftime? He got 5 targets in the first half. Was there something that happened? Was he not getting the ball enough? Was he hurt? What was it? Tom Brady has to have some of those answers of what it was. And was Tom Brady, did he try to calm AB down and try to keep AB from doing what he did? Those are all questions that I have too, Mike. What role did Tom Brady play in this in trying to keep him there and keep him calm? Because we know what Tom Brady thinks of AB. He was the reason that AB was on this team.
And when we refer to putting guys under oath, look, number one, it's never going to happen. And number two, I understand that people don't always honor the oath, but being under oath raises the stakes. Being under oath tends to cause this kind of stuff to happen a little bit more, and a little some of this, and the words are a little less convincing. Remember when Tom Brady was questioned by reporters in the first Deflategate press conference and how thoroughly unconvincing that was? You get somebody under oath, they're more likely to give you unconvincing answers because they are feeling the kind of stress that would be detected by a polygraph machine. That's why I would like to put people under oath. It's the mere fact of being under oath that may rattle them into being susceptible to accidentally giving you enough that you can convince someone else that they were full of something other than chocolate. So the other aspect of Tom Brady that I think is very important here, you know, you can't have it both ways. You can't do the post-game press conference where you talk about how much you love him and you care about him and you're worried about him, and then turn your back on him. You should, if you're Tom Brady especially, he should be at the front of the line doing whatever needs to be done to make sure that Antonio Brown is okay, that Antonio Brown, if he needs some sort of evaluation or assessment, he gets it, because Brady directly benefited from Antonio Brown last year. Super Bowl ring number 7 in part comes from the fact that Antonio Brown joined the team. And everything that Tom Brady did when it was in his interest from a football standpoint to keep Antonio Brown out of trouble, to keep Antonio Brown on the right track. And he did a great job of it. He was the only one last year who was able to get through to Antonio Brown and speak to his better angels. I think it would be wrong at this point to just say he's not on the team anymore. I don't think that's good enough, because Tom Brady and Antonio Brown were developing a very close relationship before Antonio Brown was on the team. Back when they were doing all those workouts during the pandemic, year one, away from the facility, working out on their own, there was a lot of suspicion and maybe even some reporting, if I recall correctly, and there's a chance I don't, that Antonio Brown and Tom Brady were throwing and catching passes with each other before Brown actually joined the team. So there's a relationship there that I think it's unfair to Antonio Brown to end it. So I look at it this way. Just because it's entirely possible that Antonio Brown is mostly, if not completely, at fault. Just because it's entirely possible he needs help and has some sort of a mental health issue. I think that there are people in that organization that have an obligation to make sure he gets the help. It can't just be enough to send him a text, you okay, give him a call. I think that Tom Brady needs to be as involved in helping him now when there's nothing to be gained from it as he was a year and a half ago when there was everything to be gained from it.
Oh, absolutely, Mike. And I think he will do that. I hope he does that. And I hope he speaks to that tonight on the radio show. I do too. And AB will listen, at least he did in the past, to Tom Brady. It's the one guy that he would always listen to and that he has the close relationship with. And he needs somebody like that in his life right now. No matter what's going on, he needs that because he no longer has football, at least for the next week. Who knows how that plays out. But he does need Tom Brady, I think, now more than he needed Tom Brady when he was on this team. And I think there's two questions that come up after this. But the first one I have is, can the Buccaneers repeat without AB and without Chris Godwin? And I don't know. I have huge questions about whether they can do it without those two receivers. If they had one of them, I mean, when Chris Godwin went out, we said, well, AB's coming back. And I think it's the reason that AB did come back after the vaccine card suspension was because they needed him after what happened to Chris Godwin, gone for the year with the torn ACL. Now they don't have either one of those guys, and I'm not completely confident that this team can go into Green Bay or even win in the first round of the postseason without either one of these guys.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.